At this time, I went live and I shared basically how my 2021 had gone. So, if you're just joining, this is the third part of a three series live stream. The very first one I did 3 weeks ago. I shared how I planned 2021 to go. Then I shared last week how 2021 actually went. And today I'm slated to share with you guys what I'm planning in 2022. Now, here's what's interesting. So, in probably within, I'd say, 3 hours of when I hit stop on the live stream last week, which, I had mentioned too, what an amazing year it was. I had a baby and my business was great and everything was awesome, awesome, awesome. And there was still a week to go in the year. And how amazing is life? Literally within 3 hours of hitting stop on the live stream last week, I found out my daughter has COVID, which then landed, my daughter, by the way, is only 7 months old, which then landed to me finding out I have COVID. My husband, Mike, has positive COVID test. My son does, our stepson. It's basically the whole family got it. It was actually all tied back to an ugly sweater party we had the weekend before last. Basically, everybody who came to our party got it, despite how careful we all have been. And it has been a wild ride. So, with that said, today is the first day I am actually feeling good. I feel like myself. I showered, I put on makeup. So I am super excited to get to share with everybody, what I'm actually planning for 2022. It's actually been nice to have a little extra downtime this week to be able to figure out what that is, even with the foggy COVID brain. So that's really what I'm going to be diving in and sharing with you guys today. But I did want to share, what's happened since the last time we chatted, because it really kind of goes to show you that you can plan for everything, but at the same time, you can't. No one ever could have planned that my whole family would get COVID, that we would not be able to have Christmas with our families as we had originally were planning. But at the same time, it did ultimately end up kind of playing into some of the goals I had set for myself and how I had intended my 2021 to end. Most importantly, being spending time with my immediate family and getting to do kind of holiday things. So it had ended with us doing, our ugly sweater party and having friends over and doing the holiday cookie baking and stuff like that. But what's been really, really kind of a silver lining with everything is getting to have time with my immediate family in quarantine right now. Which has been really kind of a blessing in a way. It's forced time for us to rest, to reflect. I was going to work this week. Now I'm not, obviously. So sometimes things happen for a reason. We plan for one thing and something else happens. There's multiple different ways to get to the same destination, which is why I wanted to share that with you guys today. So let's go ahead and dive in. Really quick housekeeping. If you are joining me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, any of those platforms, I may not be able to read your comments, depending on whether or not you click the link in the description, allowing me to see you, because I do use third-party software to be able to talk to you guys. For the folks on Instagram, I will be checking in with you guys over here and answering questions as you have them. So feel free to go ahead and drop them. But before we go ahead and dive into what I'm actually planning for 2022, I would actually love to know from each of you, what is your big 2022 goal? I'd love it if you can go ahead, drop me a text message. This is my direct text line. You get me, only me with this. It's 646-480-6047. Go ahead, text me what that big goal is for you. And starting next Monday, right? Monday, which I believe is January 3rd, I will help keep you personally accountable towards those goals via text. And I'm going to share a little bit more about exactly why I'm doing this in just a second. But, I wanted to mention that before we dived in. So, in sharing my big 2022 goals, and if you joined my live stream 2 weeks ago where I shared what I had planned for 2021, the way I like to plan my goals is, number one, is not a goal, it's an intention, right? So I set the intention to do, whether it be a thing or an accomplishment, and I set the intention to do it because it kind of takes the pressure off of it being a goal if I don't meet it. right? Because an intention, it could take any timeline to be able to do it. And it's more important that you're taking consistent action towards that intention than it is if you actually check off a goal on a list. So, kind of a little mindset hack for that. So, I basically have 5 different pillars, which I set 3 different intentions for each pillar, depending on what it is that I want to work on within that year. And each and every year, I choose a word. So, my word for 2021 was fun. I really wanted to have fun during this past year, which I most definitely did. I took a lot of time off. I had a maternity leave. I just had a baby. I got a lot of time with my kids. We had fun during the holidays, even before COVID had happened, baking cookies and, throwing ugly sweater parties. Basically, it really lived up to the promise. So I intended for the year to be fun, and that's what it was. For 2022, and this was through a lot of reflection, I've decided that my word of the year is going to be boundaries. And I'm going to explain a bit why. So, one of the things that I kind of realized in the latter part of 2021 is I have very lax boundaries, and it's mostly with myself, right? So, I'm always the one that's going to put my own needs behind other people's, whether it be each and every one of you, my social media followers, my clients, my family, my friends, my kids. I always put myself last. And that's something that really needs to change. And that became evident during, Q4 of this past year when I had a full-on mental breakdown following the birth of my daughter, just being able to balance it all. So I had very unrealistic expectations on what I should be able to do in terms of my business, in terms of being a mother, being a, boss, because I hired a team. So I realized I had to set better boundaries for myself in order for me to take care of myself, as well as for me to be able to take care of others, right? You got to fill your own cup before you can fill others. And that's one of the things I kind of realized. So that's really on me for this year. So my word of the year is boundaries. Right. Another thing I kind of realized too is in this season, and I talk a lot on my platforms regarding my business since I'm an entrepreneurship coach and I help other people start businesses. So one of the things that was a big takeaway for me in 2021 is that I'm in a very unique season of my business. So I had gone into 2021, with kind of this unrealistic expectation that I should have like a 6-figure business. And it didn't happen, but I came really, really close to it. And what I achieved in my business was more than most people achieve in their standard job. So that I felt was really, really important for me to realize it, as well as to understand what season I am in currently in my business and what I want my business to do for me, my family, my lifestyle. So going into 2022, the purpose that my business has within my life is to help me create space to be able to enjoy my children and enjoy my family while my kids are small. So I am not going into 2022 with any kind of expectations at all of having a 6-figure business. I'm just going to throw it out the window. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit on how I'm not even going to have the expectations of setting revenue targets. Right. That's something I always had done in the past, in 15 years of being a senior vice president and stuff like that, always having revenue targets. But I'm throwing that out the window this year because really what my business allows me to do now, and it has done very well as demonstrated in 2021, is it allows me to have freedom and flexibility to be able to work, to be able to be a provider, a joint provider for my household, with my husband, and to ultimately get to be home with my kids. Right now, that's my daughter. My daughter's only 7 months old. I don't want to miss it. So basically, that is what my business is going to serve. Once she goes to school and she's in nursery school and I have extra time during the day, that very well may change. But for right now, that is my intention going into 2022. So with that said, my pillars, as I've shared in the past, are relationships, friends, family, clients. I highly, highly value any kind of relationship I have, including with you. Anybody I interact with online through my social media platforms, through my audiences when I do keynote speaking. So this is very, very important. So relationships are a core value of mine. Business and career is a big one for me as well. I also highly value health and fitness. I value my finances, so my wealth. as well as spiritual and fulfillment, right? So those are my 5 different platforms, and I'm going to share with you guys really quickly. And I kind of debated if I was going to share the strategic, part of how I plan to accomplish each one of these things, but I decided against it. Because truth is, over the course of 2022, one of my commitments is I'm going to be sharing with you guys once a month. I'm going to be dropping in and doing a live recap of what I intended the month to be, what actually happened, and kind of have those regular touch points moving forward throughout the year. So definitely check in for those to hear more strategically how I go, navigate accomplishing each one of these goals. But here's what the actual intentions are for each pillar. So for my relationships, a big one for me, again, adhering to that topic of boundaries that is going to be very important for me within 2022, is most importantly to have people respect my time. So one of the scenarios that I had in 2021 is I found a lot of people, and it came from a variety of different places. It could be from my family, it could be kids, it could be clients. People weren't respecting my time, and I had a lot less time available to give, especially after becoming a brand new mom of an infant. So that's really on me to kind of set those boundaries and what that looks like. So, really, one of my big intentions for 2022 is to have people respect my time and to set boundaries surrounding them. I also want to really work on building a super reliable team within my company. So, the Corey Lowe and Co. team is relatively new. I hired people within the last probably 4 to 5 months. They're working amazingly. One of the things that I'm realizing that I'm going to need to hit some of my other intentions that I'm going to share with you in a few minutes is it's so important that my team is reliable, that I feel, and this has to come from me internally, that I can give up control and ownership of certain tasks that are near and dear to me in order to be able to do other things that I want to be able to do in my business and with my family and stuff like that. So reliability is something that is very, very important. And there are certain things that I know that I'm going to have to take ownership on in making sure that I have a team that is reliable, that produces great, great content and work and serves my clients as well as I do. So that's a high priority. Another thing that I find is going to be very important for me with my relationships is my relationship with myself. So, as I mentioned before, with boundaries, I don't set them. That's because, deep down, I'm coming to learn that I never really valued my own relationship with myself as highly as others. So, again, setting those boundaries, making sure that I'm taking time for myself for self care, for creative practices, for things that I need to be able to function and to prioritize myself is just as important as prioritizing all my other relationships. So those are my 3 big pillars for that. As I mentioned before, having people respect my time, building a reliable Corey Lowe and Co team, and prioritizing my relationship to myself as well as my relationships with other people. In terms of my business, and this one was really kind of fun because again, I'm not trying to do, a big 6-figure business thing like every other business coach on the planet. What I do want to accomplish within 2022, and this has been on my board for a while, is 2022 is the year that I intend to get a book deal. I've had opportunities for this in the past, especially since my TEDx talk. On the topic of my TEDx talk in particular, I have a concept called the Overwhelm Culprits. It's something I keynote on currently. And I've wanted to do a book on it for quite a while, just the timing's never been right. So one of my big intentions for the end of 2022 is to build the space that I need to be able to actually sit down, write the proposal, and to get the book out. So it's not just writing the proposal either. It's committing the time, it's committing the resources, everything I need to be able to get that done. So that is one of my 3 business intentions. The other one is for, and again, my business is currently set up that I am a coach, right? So I help aspiring entrepreneurs, validate that they can work for themselves through landing their first paying client. That's what I do. That's what I do well. So coming into 2022, I'm going to add some additional revenue streams that's going to help me free up capacity to be able to do some other things. So big one for me is keynote speaking. I'm going to be able to do that again. I wasn't able to do it within 2020 to 2021 because of the pandemic and because of my pregnancy. So I'm going to be ramping that up again. which is actually going to be great for me too, because it's something that if I do a gig or two a month, excuse me, COVID cough, that I'm not away from my family for a very, very long period of time, but I'm still bringing in revenue. So it's kind of a win-win. So I'm going to be booking more keynote speaking gigs within 2022. And I'm also looking to have more of my coaching revenue automated. So, what do I mean by that? Right now, currently, the processes that my team and I do in order to bring on clients for my signature program, the Validate Your Biz Blueprint, a lot of it is still fairly manual. So, we're doing content, but a lot of it was, creating relationships with people that we meet online, really kind of outbound kind of connections that we were making. I'm looking to make it more of an attraction based, through attraction based marketing, be able to shift that dynamic within 2022 so that I have capacity to go and do other things. So, I really, one of my big, big goals that I would love, or intentions, I should say, is by the summer of 2022, I would love to have my lead gen automated to the point that I can justify hiring a full time salesperson. Right now, I'm currently doing all of our enrollment calls, and I would like to be able to have somebody that's doing the enrollment calls for me so that I can effectively take the summer off with my kids while they're out of school. So that's a big, big intention for me that I would absolutely love to be able to accomplish. And that's really it for my business. So, like I said, for this season in my business, I'm not really looking to do anything that's too game changing. I'd like to have my